personal investigation. It was rather interesting when we were actually getting ready to leave. There was an unusual temperature fluctuation. It felt palpably colder than it was registering. And at one point I was sitting on the bed and I kept asking, is the air conditioning turned off? Because I was actually feeling what felt very much like a full force air conditioning breeze. I live in Florida. I know what it's like without the air conditioning. I know what it's like with the air conditioning. Why there was that fluctuation, I really don't know. I don't really have an explanation. And unfortunately, most of our devices weren't really picking up at that point. While we were getting our equipment together, Mary actually asked an interesting question, and she did say, are you related to World War II? Because at one point this hotel was actually used to house some of the soldiers. At that point, the fluctuations began again in this temperature. Now again, it's only a degree, but this meter doesn't normally do that. It's really, I have had it for about at least 18 months. Actually, no, it's been longer than that. 24 to 36 months actually, so it's been 2 to 3 years. And it doesn't tend to fluctuate. In fact, one of the frustrating aspects is that it is a very steadfast temperature. So for this to actually occur again was fairly interesting, and every time it did, it would do it with, are you a World War II soldier? And that was the only time it would fluctuate. Tonight I was also using a natural EM meter, and typically with the EM meters, they don't do a heck of a lot. You zero them out and you set it down, and then if anything happens, it happens. Now, at one point I asked a question, and I'm sorry to say I can't remember what that question is, so I will have to play back my recordings to find that. The only spike it did was when we were trying to figure out if this was a World War II soldier. And it did spike because what I had is I had set it, usually it doesn't do anything, so it's set at 2.5. Which is actually a fairly decent little spike. It's not just a little fluctuation. This has to move itself a bit. And essentially it actually did click. And it was the only spike. And I actually did make sure, I was putting my hands by it, to make sure that it was not a movement. And it refused to make another noise. So I was like, well, okay.
When we wore it for a wedding, I kept hearing a little girl's voice and feeling stuff brushing back my legs, my arm hair, and I kept looking back. I kept hearing saying Craig, like a little girl's voice. It was bizarre.
Come up here against the wall. Just come up here and stand against this wall right here. Same with you. Stand against this wall. Just gonna talk around this area. Oh yeah. Against this wall. Oh, okay. Just gonna talk around this area. Oh yeah.
I've had that. I've been upstairs or building this place, just taking a nap upstairs, and the stereo turns on full blast by itself, turns back off.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard about that. It was unplugged or something, and it just turns on.
Yeah, it was weird. Today, the blender turned on, turn off by itself. Behind the bar. I've never had to have. I've worked with that blender for 12 years.
It just turns on, turns off. And is it a switch or is it a button?
It's a push. Like you have to push down. It's not like
and
a
it
switch.
Sticks
it's
down?
Like a push. Yeah.
No,
it pops back up and turns it off by itself. Like when you start it, it shuts off automatically when the drink's done.
Oh, it's like a.
But it just was like bing, bing, turn on and off. Like you have to push. It's a pretty hard button to push. It's not like.
And it's a timed out thing, so if
it
it
like,
were
boom,
on,
boom.
it would run for 40 seconds before it should shut off.
All right.
So
strange.
A voice. Basically, we can play back your voice. Maybe you're familiar with what a record is. It's the same thing.
some of the weird things that just happened to me. When we were building this place and stuff, I would walk in and I would sing children's songs. And literally songs that I don't even know.
Yeah.
Like I'm not, you know, I'm a heavy metal kind of guy or country, but I definitely, like James Jingleheimer Schmidt or whatever that song is, I literally knew all the words to it. Just walking around, I would sing all children's songs for months. This happened. Mary had a little lamp.
We lived here.
I would just start whistling stuff. Like, I mean, it was bizarre. And I'm not that kind of guy. Like, it's just
starting to freak yourself out. Right?
Yeah. One of the things happened. This happened a couple weeks ago. That we had just set up the bar. The restaurant wasn't open yet. I was the last one to leave. We had just set all the tables, all the chairs, and everything. I was the last one to leave the premises. I locked the doors, set the alarm, and then the next morning I was the first one here because the alarm was still on, and I had to set the alarm code, and it tells you whether anybody was in and out in the last, you know, in between the time I had set it. No one else was in, and all the chairs in the bar were down on the ground.
Okay.
Were falling down on the ground.
So were they just tumbled down or?
Yeah, it was just like someone just not breathing upstairs. Late at night, if you're up there, it doesn't sound like, I don't know how to describe it. It doesn't sound like pornographic breathing, but it's just like a respiratory problem breathing.
Okay.
Like real
Heavy.
like something wrong, like something
Struggling.
Yeah, like struggling breathing. It is. It's weird.
It almost feels like there's a presence. You know when you're like there's a hallway around you, you feel like someone's coming. Like not necessarily here, but you feel like you know how that is.
Yeah.
It's like that. Like you feel somebody coming.
Okay.
We've had lights that have just shut off with no reason. Like, you know what I mean? We've had electricians in, and electricians say there's nothing wrong with the outlets or anything, or the actual sockets or anything like that. But yeah, we have lights blown all the time, just like
Right.
blow like that, brand new lights.
Right.
Not even blown. Lights that we screw in completely, and they think they're blown, and you go up and they're loose, like halfway loose.
Right.
And you have them screwed in the entire way, and you think they're blown. You go up and you touch it, and it turns back on, and you can screw it like halfway in.
Right.
What else happens over
That happens all this floor. It's weird down the dining room.
I haven't personally witnessed it, but the owner of the building has actually seen a little girl running around upstairs.
You're talking about the restaurant there.
The restaurant, yeah. Now, we don't use the upstairs of the restaurant for anything other than office work.
Okay.
We have our office up there and stuff like that. But we have pretty much all the doors closed and stuff like that because it's freaky up there at night.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of noises and stuff. I hear footsteps on the back stairs at night. And like, you know, when I'm going around, turning off all the lights, I'm the only one in the building.
Right.
3 or 4 times now, I've actually had to walk back to the back hallway to make sure that there wasn't anybody in there.
Sure.
Because I literally, I mean, it sounds like a grown man's walking up the stairs.
Right.
And then I leave quickly. I usually leave a light on too, so I can get out with it. Yeah, I mean, without
I've
being.
heard rumors of the little girl, like I
Yeah.
said, and that's the voice I heard. I fell against the back of my legs and arms, hair, like goosebumps all over.
Yeah.
And then there was rumors of an older lady in a wheelchair that people have seen.
Yeah. Something.
Yeah.
The temperature, there's a odd
Yeah.
temperature problem about upstairs over there. Like 1 minute it'll be like 90 degrees upstairs, and the next
60.
minute literally I need to put a sweatshirt on.
Yeah, it's
Right.
like 60
Like
to 90.
it's, you know, I think we don't have we have air conditioning units set up for upstairs, but we don't have them hooked up. So because we try to feed off the bottom, you know what I mean, usually cools down the whole building enough.
Right.
But it's weird.
Right.
I don't know. I guess I kind of believe in some of this stuff. You know what I mean?
Well, because you're experiencing some of it. You know,
It's
it
nice-
doesn't make sense, does it?
I think it's nice to think that there is something else after death.
Beyond
But I'll tell you what, it's freaky
Sure.
working over there at night.